Hey, how you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're starting Daf Nun Ches, Daf 58 of Masechta Gittin. Friends, alright. Friends, well, today we wrap up these Agaritas that we've been doing the past 2 days about basically the destruction of Yerushalayim, and then we get back to the sugya of Sikrikon. I mean, that's not a Poshet sugya, and then we just get thrown back into the sugya of Sikrikon, and maybe we'll get up to the next Mishnah. Depends how we're feeling at the end, how exhausted we are, and maybe we'll try to get to the Mishnah Nun Tes Amud Aleph. Otherwise, we'll stop at the bottom of Nun Ches Amud Beis. Maybe Taka, we should only get to the bottom of Nun Ches Amud Beis because it starts Nun Tes Amud Aleph before the Mishnah. There's some really interesting stuff, so I feel like it might be better to start with it than to rush through it at the end. All right. So, where are we? Oh, I got to babble on 1 sec. Okay, here we go. So we are on Daf Nun Ches Amud Aleph, at the 2 dots, about 10 lines into the page or so. Bnei Tzion HaYikorim, the precious fellows, sons of Zion, HaMesulayim Bapaz, that are Mesulayim Bapaz. My Mesulayim Bapaz. What does that mean? It means that they were adorned in paz. V'amrei but there were only 2 2 measures of paz. I thought paz was gold. I don't know, maybe it's some other thing, something precious. There were only 2 measures of it that came down ba'alma into the world. One went to Rome, and then the rest of this paz was for the rest of the world. So it can't be that the Bnei Tzion were Mesulayim Bapaz, were adorned in paz, because in Rome they have a plethora of it, but the rest of the world is sharing just 1 measure of it. So it can't be that the Bnei Tzion had so much paz. That the Bnei Tzion, the sons of Zion, were so gorgeous that they made paz look like nothing. Initially the nobles of Rome, so initially they would, look at their signet rings or something and have conjugal relations. Apparently that was preferable for them. But then once they discovered the Bnei Tzion, the sons of Zion, Maisu Bnei Yisrael, they would take children of Israel, Vasi Bakari de Purayu, and tie them up by their bedposts, and then they would proceed to have conjugal relations with these very beautiful boys around. So now one of these boys said to his friend, he's like, Heicho Ksivo, where is this strange thing described in the Torah, right? We're being used for this kind of strange situation. So Amalei, so the other fellow said, Gam kol choli v'cholmaka asher lo kosuv b'sefer Torah azos. Well, the pasuk says that all sorts of strange things, all sorts of sicknesses and smitenings that are not written in the Sefer Torah, and that comes to include being tied up by somebody's bed when they're having conjugal relations. Omar kama marchikno miduchta plan, and then the asker said to the answerer, and how far away am I from learning that in the Torah, right? How far, right? When will I get to this pasuk? Amalei ingid pusto ufalgo, and the fellow said, it's about 1.5 columns away from where you are now in your Torah study. Amalei imator ligabe lo itzrichi loch, and he said, okay, if I just would have learned a little further, I wouldn't have needed to ask that question. Babylon, 1 sec. Let's try that again. What does the pasuk mean? That my eye is, not good from all of the daughters of my city. There were 400 synagogues in Beiser, and in each synagogue, in each synagogue had 400 teachers of the young fellows to teach Torah. And each teacher, each one had 400 students, 400 young students, young pupils. And the plan was that when the enemies would come into there, they would stab the enemies with their sticks. And when the enemies came and defeated these young children with their sticks, they wrapped up these children in their scrolls that they were studying and burnt them. Okay. The rabbis taught there was a story with Rabbi Yoshua. He went to the capital of Rome. And they said, we have a young fellow in prison. He's got beautiful eyes, and he's a gorgeous fellow. He's got long curly hair. So Rabbi Yeshua went and he went to the prison. That who made Jacob for trampling on and Israel for looting. Ana also Tinok, and then this young beautiful fellow in the prison responded, "V'Omar Halo Hashem zo chatanu lo v'lo avud b'drach of haloch v'lo shamu b'toraso." That we have sinned to God and haven't walked in God's ways. Omar, and Rabbi Yeshua responded, "Wow, muftachoni bo shemar hara b'Yisrael." And Rabbi Yeshua says, "Wow, this is the fellow who's in jail. I know that he's going to be a great teacher, a great paskiner of halacha in Israel, and teacher of halacha in Israel. Ha'avoda, that he swore by the service in the temple. She'eni zos mikan, that I ain't going nowhere. Ha'chevdenu b'chol mamon sheposken olav. I'll pay whatever it takes to get this to free this fellow from prison. Amru lo zos mishom ad shepido b'mamon harbe." And they said that Yeshua did not leave before redeeming this young fellow for lots of money. And sure enough, shortly thereafter, he began being a teacher in Israel. Umanu Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. This was Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Elisha. Amar Yehuda Amar Rab Maise bivno v'vitel Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. There was a Maise with the son and daughter of Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. Shenishbu l'shnei adonim, that the son and the daughter were taken captive to two masters. V'yamim nizdavgu shneim b'makom echad, and at some point these two masters were together. Zeh omer yeshli eved shein kiyofi b'chol ha'olam. One of them was saying, "I have an eved who is the most beautiful eved in the entire world." The Omer yesh li shifcha she'ein b'chol ha'olam kulo kiyofyo. The other one says, "Well, I have a shifcha that there is nobody as beautiful as this shifcha in the entire world." Amru bo v'nasiyem zelozes. So they had an idea. Why don't we marry them to each other? V'nichalik bivlodus, and then we'll split the offspring, and we can have beautiful avodim, beautiful offspring. And again, imagine the offspring. The plan was to make them avodim as well. So they brought the Eved and the Shifcha, which were brother and sisters, the son and daughter of Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. Right? He sat in his corner, she sat in her corner. And he's saying, "I don't understand. I'm a kohen, the son of a kohen gadol. How can I marry a shifcha?" And she says, "I am a kohenis, the son of a kohen gadol. The son of kohanim gedolim. How can I, allow myself to be married to a eved?" And they slept all night. And when it became morning, they recognized one another, and they realized that they were brother and sister. And they fell on one another, and they cried until their souls departed. And about them Yirmiyah lamented, that on these I cry, Eini, you're the mind, that my eye is flowing, tears are coming from my eyes. Amr Rish Lakish said, Rish Lakish, There's a story with a woman named Tzofnas Bas Pniel. Tzofnas, she called Tzofn B'Yofish. She was named Tzofnas because everybody would look that she was so beautiful. Bas Pniel Bito Shekohen Gadol Sheshimish Lifnai V'Lifnim. The daughter of Pniel. It's a reference to the Kohen Gadol who does avoda on Yom Kippur B'Fnai V'Lifnim. She nis'alul ba Shaboy Kol Alayla. And her captors violated her all night. The next day, Elbisha Shiva Chalukim, is her captor had her put on 7 layers of clothing. And he went out to sell her. A fellow came who was mamish disgusting. Omar lo, and the fellow says, Harenias Yofi, I want to see how beautiful she is. Omar lo Reka im likach kach. He says, look, if you want to buy her, if you want her, take her, right? But buy her. Shein ki yofia b'chol ha'olam. You're not going to find anybody as beautiful as her in the entire world. B'chol ha'olam kulo. Omar lo afal pichein. And the fellow says, no, I still want to see her. Hefshita shisha chalukim. And they removed 6 layers of clothing. V'shiv ushvi, and the 7th karaito. She tore it open. V'nispalsha be'ofer, and she fell into the dirt. Omra, and she said, Omra lefonim, she said before God, Ribono shel olam, the Master of the world, Aleinu lo chasda, if you're not going to have mercy on us, al kedusha shimcha agibor lama lo sachos. Why don't you at least have mercy on your own great name? Ve'aleh kohen in Yirmiyah, and about this, and on this Yirmiyah laments, Bas ami chigri sak, my nation gird sackcloth, v'spalshi ba'efer, I believe, and collapse into the dust. Evel yochid asi loch mispaid tamurim. Make a mourning like for an only child. Mispaid tamurim, a very bitter mourning and eulogy. Kipisom yavo ashodid aleinu, that suddenly the bandits will come upon us. Alecha lo nemar elo aleinu. Yirmiyah doesn't say upon you, but upon us. Kivayachol olai ve'alecha bashode, that it's not just upon us, but upon God as well. Homar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Ma'idich, what does the pasuk mean? Va'ashku gever uveso v'ish nachloso, that they will rob a fellow and his house, and a fellow in his inheritance. There was a fellow who he was attracted to his master's wife. Vishulya Denagre, he was an apprentice, a carpenter's apprentice, and his I believe his instructor is right, the person who he was an apprentice by. So this apprentice was attracted to his teacher's wife. And one time the teacher needed a loan. Omar lo shka ishtcha etzli v'alvena. So the apprentice says, why don't you send your wife to me and I'll give you a loan. Shiger ishto etzlo. So the carpenter sent his wife to the apprentice. Shah ima shlosha yomim, and then they remained together for 3 days. Kodam uva etzlo. And then the carpenter came to this apprentice. Amalon, he said to him, Ishti shashigarti loch echani, where's my wife? Right, I sent her here a few days ago to receive some money. I haven't seen her. Amarlo, so the apprentice says, Ani p'tartiya la'alter. Well, I don't know. I sent her out. I sent her off immediately. V'shamaiti sha'atinokos nisal luba baderech. I heard that some young inappropriate fellows violated her on the way back. Omar lo ma'eseh. So the carpenter says, what should I do? Omar lo im ata shemei la'atzosi. And the apprentice says, look, if you listen to my advice, garsha, divorce her. Omar lo ksubasa meruba. But the carpenter says, but her ksuba is quite hefty. Omar lo ani alvecha. So the carpenter says, don't worry, I will. So the apprentice says, don't worry, I will lend you the money. V'sein lo ksubasa, and then pay her ksuba. Omar ze v'gersha. So the carpenter went and divorced his wife. Halach hu unisa'a, and then the apprentice went and married this woman, the wife of the carpenter. Came Shagia's manu v'lohoyelo lo lefaro, and then when it came time for the carpenter to pay back the apprentice, he didn't have the money to pay back for the loan for the ksubah. So Amalo ba va'ase imi b'chovcha. So the apprentice suggested that the carpenter should work for the carpenter should work for the apprentice to pay off the loan. And now the apprentice who married the carpenter's wife, they would be sitting, they would drink, and the carpenter was now the one serving them, right? Serving this fellow who's now married to his wife, who was his apprentice. And the carpenter was crying, and his tears would land in their cups. And at that time, with this deplorable act and this deplorable move by this apprentice, the verdict was sealed for the destruction of Jerusalem. And some say it was 2 wicks in 1 candle, meaning that that it was two things. Right, it was the carpenter's actions and also the wife who was partaking in this as well. The apprentice's actions as well as the wife of the carpenter. Wow, okay, that was shtickle exhausting, these huge pages, but I mean, not like the end of Sota, where that was just next level exhausting, but this, big pages, okay. But with that, we wrapped up these dapim about the destruction, the Churban by Sheni, and somewhat by his Rishon as well. And now we are getting back to our regularly planned Masechta Gittin Sugyas. Okay, so the Mishnah said, Lokach mina Sikrikon v'chule. So the Mishnah said, so who are these Sikrikon people? Who can remind me? Sikrikon were these people who Be'etzem gave an offer that you couldn't refuse. Right? They would go around to the Yidden and they would say, no, give me your field or I'll kill you. And so he goes to Shimon, he says, look, Shimon, either your signature or your brains goes on this paper. So Shimon says, fine, I'll put my signature. Now, Ruvain goes and buys the field from the Sikrikon. So we said that if Ruvain buys the field from the Sikrikon and then afterwards goes to Shimon and says, hey Shimon, can you now give it to me as a gift? So that the mikro bottle, that doesn't work because we say that Shimon is either maybe scared of the Sikrikon, or maybe he's hoping that he never gave up hope of getting back the field, but that better that Ruvain should have it and he can work it out with Ruvain than with the Sikrikon. He didn't really plan to give it to Ruvain, and therefore it's bottle. So now says the Gemara, Amarav lo shanu ela do amar lo lech chazek ukni. Now when we say that it's bottle, that if Ruvain buys the field from the Sikrikon and then goes to Shimon to ask to make a kinyan for it, so we say it doesn't work. That's only if Shimon says, yeah, sure, just go make a chazaka, right? A way that you can acquire properties to make a chazaka. Chazaka is something like to put up a fence around. If he goes, you put up a fence around the field, then that's you're taking ownership of it, for example. So if Shimon simply says, yeah, sure, Reuven, go make a chazaka on it, so then, the mekach is bottle, because he's not really, he's basically saying, yeah, sure, whatever. Aval, bishtar, kono. But if Shimon goes out of his way to write the document that says, yes, Reuven, it belongs to you, so then it works, even if Reuven first, if Shimon writes the document saying that it belongs to Reuven, so it works, even if Reuven first bought the property from the Sikrikon and only then went to Shimon, still, if Shimon writes a document and gives it to Reuven that the field belongs to Reuven, so then it belongs to Reuven. Shmuel Amar Av b'shtar nami lo kono, achichtav lo achrayis. And Shmuel says no, even with the document, even with the shtar, still it's not enough to make it Reuven's unless he adds on, Lev Shimon adds on achrayis, that and Reuven, if there's any issues, if somebody takes it away from you, you come to me and I'll pay you for and I'll be responsible for that to make good on that field. Then he accepts responsibility for it. So Tani Kavos to Shmuel, we have a price supporting Shmuel. Reb Shimon ben Elazar Omer says, Shimon ben Elazar, Lokach min ha'isha, v'chazar v'lokach min ha'ish. That our Mishnah, it's a brisa, that if a fellow purchases the land that was designated for a woman's ksuba, he first purchased it from her, and then purchased it from the husband. It's a good purchase. But if he first purchased from the fellow and then from the wife, it doesn't work. Ad shetichtov lo achrayis, until she davka writes achrayis. That sounds exactly like Shmuel, saying that in order for the sale to be good, you have to write the achrayis. So Nema, tiyuf to the Rab. Let's say it's a kasha and Rab who says that simply writing a shtar is enough to make it a good sale. Hamalach Rab, my achrayis nami shtar. No, also when it says achrayis over here, it's referring to writing a document for the fellow. So if a Ruvain purchased the field from the Sikrikon, v'achla shalosh shanim bifnei bailim, and then he ate from it for 3 years. For 3 years, he was on this field. As far as he's concerned, it's his. And then Ruvain, after 3 years, sells it to Levi. Ein lebailim alokech sheni klum. So we're saying that now Shimon has nothing against Levi. Shimon cannot go to Levi and make any kind of a claim. Hey Chidami, what's the case? And if it's talking about that Levi says to Shimon, he says, look, Reuven bought it from you, so leave me alone. So afilu risho nami. So why do I need it davka to be that it's because Levi has it that Shimon doesn't have a claim? Even if Levi wouldn't have it, even if it would still be by Reuven, if Shimon comes to Reuven and says, hey, I want it, I want this field, it's mine, and Reuven says, I made a kinyan from you, so even, right, Reuven would be able to keep it, right? So why does it need to be by Levi in order to make the claim that Reuven made a kinyan? Even Reuven himself could have made that claim. So, where am I? Okay, fine. So, idelo katoin ve'omar minach zabno, and if he's not making that claim, well then afilu sheni nami lo. Well then, even if it's by Levi, then Levi shouldn't be able to. Right? If there's no claim of a kinyan, so then Levi oichit wouldn't be able to hold on to it. So Omer Rav Sheshes says le'olam delo kota in lei. So actually, it is talking about where Levi does not say that Reuven purchased it from Shimon. However, in this situation, this would be a situation where Bezdin would make the taina on behalf of Levi. That if Reuven purchased the field from the Sikrikon, and then after 3 years, well, not even necessarily after 3 years, I think this could even be that he sold it immediately. And then Levi had it for 3 years, and then Shimon comes to try to take it from Levi, so Bezdin would make the taina for Levi that Reuven had purchased it from Shimon. And that he had purchased it from Shimon, because Rashi says at the bottom, Toanin liyorish v'toanin lilokeach. Right, if you look at the bottom, at 3 lines to the bottom of that Rashi, the stam man dezavin mi sikrikon, because somebody who buys from a sikrikon, right? So Reuven purchased his field from sikrikon. Made the yoda, he knows v'lo shdi zuze b'chdi lilakha imlo alpi bailel. Right, he wouldn't risk Shimon coming and taking it away from him if he wouldn't first sort it out with Shimon, and therefore Bezdin would make the taina for Levi that Reuven squared everything away with Shimon, and Shimon can't force him to have to pay anything. So and we would make a taina on behalf of Levi. Additionally, if Reuven passed away and his children inherited it, also we would make the claim on their behalf. And specifically, we're talking about Levi, but in terms of Reuven, well, Reuven knows if he paid Shimon for it or not, and therefore, if Reuven says that I paid you for it, then he paid him for it. If Reuven doesn't say he paid him for it, then we don't assume that then Shimon can ask for the money, right? Because as we learned at the end of the Mishnah, you pay. Right? We said the Bezdin Shalach Reim said that Ruvain pays Shimon a quarter of the price, and we're going to see a machlokas at the bottom of the field is a quarter of the price of the field, is a quarter of the price of what he paid. But okay, Beseder. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Haba machmas chov u'machmas anprus, ein bo mishum sekrikon. Okay, so sekrikon is this whole kind of like deal, right? Meaning the Mishnah talked about the sekrikon, right? That it depends. Did he, did you buy it first from the sekrikon? Did you buy it first from the seller? Did it wait for 12 months? The Mishnah had said, right? If it's within 12 months, so then Shimon has the first dibs. If it's already been 12 months, then anybody can buy it, and then Ruvain needs to pay 25% to Shimon for it. It's like there's like a whole cheshbon when it comes to sekrikon. So now it says the Gemara Tana Rabbanan, Haba machmas chov u'machmas anprus ein bo mishum sekrikon. If an Ovid Kochavim takes the field of a Yid because he's owed money, and he just goes and threatens the Yid, or if he threatens the Yid and kind of takes the field from him, but he's not necessarily planning to kill him like the Sekrikon were, well, in that case, if this Ovid Kochavim goes and seizes this field from Shimon, and he's not giving him an offer that he can't refuse, so then Shimon always intends to get his field back, and therefore, Shimon can take it back at any time, and it's never considered Reuven's. And by anpris it needs to wait. By anpris, which is when they kind of threaten the fellow and take away his field. So we're saying that by anpris, when a fellow just kind of steals the field of a yid, so tzricha shetashi do beis chodesh, it needs to wait by this Ovid Kochavim for 12 months. In order for Reuven to be able to buy it. But the whole 12-month thing is a sekrikon thing, and we just said that by anpros there is no sekrikon. So achikam is sekrikon atzma tzricha shetashe yud beis chodesh. No, but after by sekrikon, you need to wait 12 months before Reuven can buy it from the sekrikon. Amr of Yosef says of Yosef naktinon ein anpros bebavel. There's no anpros in Bavel. There aren't these Ovdei Kochavim that steal land in Bavel. What do you mean? We see that there are Ovdei Kochavim who steal land in Bavel. So Ela Ema ein din anpros beBavel. No, there's no halacha of anpros in Bavel. Right? The halacha that by anpros we said that if somebody goes and steals property from Shimon always intends to get that property back. And there's no, it's not like 12 months later he lost his chance or anything like that. He can always get it back. However, in Bavel, that halacha does not apply. My time alkam came to Ika Beidavar. Well, since there are courts in Bavel, Vilo Azil, and he didn't go to court to try to make a claim. So, Vilo Azil Kavil Ema Achuli Achil. So I'll say that right there is Moichel Zayin that he's not planning to get back this field, and therefore this din of anprus doesn't apply in Bavel. Gidol bar Eloi kabil ara betaska mipnei baiga. So there were a bunch of people who were in a valley, and in the valley there were a bunch of fields. And the way that the taxation would work was that the tax man wouldn't go to every single field and collect taxes from each individual field. Rather, all the people would just pay a flat fee, right? He would say, okay, this valley needs to pay this amount of money, and then the people would divide it up and collectively be responsible to come up with that sum. So, but now if one of the people there goes away, so they have to come up with a plan, because how are they going to make up, otherwise everybody's got to pay more to cover this person. So, Gidol bari Eloi kabil ara betaska mibnei baiga. So Gidol bar. So there was this valley, and they had a bunch of people with land there. One person went away. So in order to make sure that, Gidol bar Eloi went and he took over one of the fields, and he worked the field and benefited from the field, and then he would cover the tax for that empty field, and that way nobody else had to cover it. So Aktim v'yoyev zuzeh ditflas shnin, and what he did was not only did he pay the tax for that year, he paid in advance for 3 years. The sof also marvaso kamoi. But then after 1 year, the owner of the land came back. Amrulay, and they said to Gidul bar Eloi, Shata kamaisa diyavos achalt. He says, look, this past year, you worked the field, you benefited from the field, and you paid tax for this field. But hashta onon yavinon onon achlinon. But look, we're back now. We're going to work and benefit from the field, and we'll cover the tax. But now Gidul bar Eloi is like, wait, but I already paid for the next 3 years. Now what? So also the comment of Pape, they came before Rav Papa. Savr the michtov lei tarfa abnei baiga. So Rav Papa thought that he would basically, if I understand correctly, Bezdin would cover it for him, right? That basically Gidul bar Eloi would get his money back. So Omar le Rav Huna brei de Rav Yeshua le Rav Papa imken osis sikrikon. Says Rav Huna brei de Rav Yeshua to Rav Papa, but if that's the case, and you're basically doing the din of the sikrikon. What's the sikrikon? Ruvain buys the field from the sikrikon. The sikrikon sells it at a discount because they don't care. They stole the field anyways, right? So it's all profit. So they sell it at a discount. Ruvain then goes and pays the difference between what the field is worth and what he bought it for. He pays that to Shimon. And he ends up breaking even. Says Rav Huna brei de Rav Yeshua, if you're gonna basically cover Gidul bar Elai's layout of 2 years, then it's basically a din of sikrikon. So Elo Amar Rav Huna brei de Rav Yeshua iniach ma'osav al keren hatzvi. Rather, says Rav Huna brei de Rav Yeshua that Gidul bar Elai basically lost his money. The Mishnah had continued and said, so Mishnah Rishona, that was the Mishnah Rishona, right? The whole thing about, if Reuven buys first from the Sikrikon and then from Shimon, did he buy first from Shimon and then the Sikrikon? Bezin Shalachrein Amru, but the latter Bezin said, Halokeach min ha-Sikrikon nosin levalim revia, that if somebody purchases from the Sikrikon, so he pays a quarter to the owner, right? Meaning if Reuven buys from the Sikrikon, he pays 25% to Shimon. So the question is, what is this 25%? Amr Rav, says Rav, Revia b'karka, she'u revia b'maos. Of a quarter of the property, which is a quarter of what he paid. Ushmuel Amr Revia b'karka she'en shlish b'maos. Where Shmuel says a quarter of the property, which is a third of the money. But my kamiflige, what are they arguing about? My savar nechi revia zavin, my savar nechi chumsha zavin. Well, Shmuel holds that the Sikrikon sells it at a discount of a quarter, whereas Rav holds that he sells it at a discount of a fifth. Meaning, the way that Rav understands, right? So what? No, but. So the Mishnah said that if the Sikrikon made Shimon an offer he couldn't refuse, and then Reuven buys the field from Shimon, so the Sikrikon puts it at a discount, so it's machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. Rav says that the discount of the Sikrikon is a 20% discount. So if the field was $1,000, the Sikrikon sells it to Reuven for $800, which means that there's $200, right, it was $1,000 field, and he bought it for $800. So Reuven then pays $200, which is 25% of what he paid. He paid $800, and 25% of what he paid is $200. He gives that to Shimon. Shmuel, however, says that no, the Sikrikon sells it at a 25% discount, right? So he's if the field was $1,000, the Sikrikon is selling it to Reuven for $750, which means that the Reuven then takes 1/3 of what he paid, 750. 1/3 of that is 250, and he pays that to Shimon. And $250 is is 25%. Is a revia is 25% of the field, which was $1,000. So again, so Amar Rav says revia b'karka, right? Revia, I guess a quarter of the field. Shehu revia b'mos, which is a quarter of the money paid, right? The money, right? He paid $800. According to Rav, the Sikrikon sold it at a discount of 20%, so he paid $800 for it. So the $200 that he pays Shimon is 25% of $200 is 25% of the $800 that he paid. People are being very loud outside. Yanki the Zar. Shmuel Omer says Shmuel Revia Bikarka. Shmuel says that the quarter of the property she'ein shlish b'mos is a third of what he paid. That according to Shmuel, the Sikrikon sells it at a 25% discount. So he sells a field of $1,000 for $750. A third of what he paid would be $250, and that's what he gives to Shimon, which is 25% of the total value of $1,000. Meisvei, we have a kasha. Zomishna Rishona, we have a brayso that says that this is the first Mishnah. Bezin Shalachrei and Amru, but a later Bezdin said, Alokech min ha-Sikrikon nosin levalim revia, that somebody who buys from the Sikrikon give, right? So if Reuven buys from the Sikrikon, he pays Shimon a quarter, Viad Bailim Elyona, and Shimon has the upper hand. Rotzu Bekarka Notlin, Rotzu B'mos Notlin. He can choose if he wants. He can accept this in property, or he can accept it in money. Emosei, when is this? Bizman she'ein biyodon likach. That's only if Shimon did not have the ability, did not have the means to buy it back from the Sikrikon. But if he does have the ability to buy it back, then Shimon gets first dibs. Rebbe Yoshev Bezdin, Rebbe made a Bezdin v'nimnu, and they said, She'im, or they voted, as we're going to see. I don't think we're going to do this right now, although I guess I'll decide, but I don't think we're going to. She'im sh'asa b'fnei Sikrikon shneim asar chodesh, that if the land stayed with the Sikrikon for a year, then at that point anybody can purchase it. Aval noson levalim revia bekarka or revia b'maos. That's the kicker, right? Or Ruvain can give Shimon either a 25% of the property or 25% of the money, which is like Rav, who says that Ruvain pays 25% of what he paid, if the $800 that he paid, because Shmuel says it was a third of the $750 that he paid. You could say that no, it's also like Shmuel, that the brayso that talks about a quarter of the money, meaning a quarter of the total money that he paid, meaning he paid $750 to the Sikrikon, he then paid a third of that, which is $250 to Shimon, which is a quarter of the total that he paid, which is $1,000. $750 to Sikrikon, $250 to Shimon, which is a total of $1,000. The amount that therefore he gave to Shimon was 25% of the total amount paid. Let's see, should I go weiter? Should I do it? There's a few awesome things in this next thing, and I just don't want to run through it. But maybe I'll go slower for the awesome things, and then I'll do the rest of the parts quick. That'll be good. Let's do it. Let's take a deep breath, and let's do it. Amar Rav, this is awesome. Ana avoy b'minyana de vei Rebbe uminoi didi manu bereisha. Wow. Rav says that he, right, meaning the Mishnah had said, although we have a brayso over here that says the same thing, Rebbe Hoshev Bezdin v'nimnu. Rebbe put together, right, gathered together I don't know what the word I'm thinking of is, but gathered together a Bezdin, and they made a vote, right? They all put in their opinions. So it says Rav that he was part of that Bezdin. Rav is an Amora, Rebbe is a Tana, but we say Rav Tana Upalag. Rav was right on the cusp. He was a student of Rebbe. You see that he was part of Rebbe's Bezdin. That is awesome, friends. And he says Uminoi Didi Manu Bereisha, and they started the vote, right? They started, asking the votes from me. The Gemara in Sanhedrin talks about how they would start, the Bezdin would sit in a half circle, and they would start from the greatest person was in the middle, and then out to the sides would be, kind of go down in levels, and they would start from the side with the voting, because if you start from the greatest person, then nobody's gonna be, really be able to contradict the greater person. So they start from the least great people and then work their way up so that everybody can vote, their opinion. So they started the vote with me. But one second, fact the Gemara, that when it comes to financial matters, such as this, like the Sikrikon, as well as Tyrus and Tumas, they start from the greatest person. They only start from the side when it comes to Dine Nefashos, capital cases. It was given by Rebbe, the Chulu Minyonayu Minatzarev Umaskilin, that their opinion was that no, all countings of the courts always start from the side. We never start by the head of the court, by the greatest person. V'yitem Rabbi Hillel Brei de Reb Valas Mimos Moshe Vad Rebbe Lo Matzinu Torah V'Gdula B'Makom Echad. That from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, of Moses our teacher, until our leader, until Rebbe, from Moshe until Rebbe, Lo Matzinu Torah V'Gdula, we don't find Torah and greatness in the same place. V'lo, is that true? Hava Yoshua. What about Yoshua? Hava Elazar. Yeah, but Yoshua wasn't alone. There was also Elazar, the son of Aharon. Hava Elazar, okay, but then after Yoshua there was Elazar. Hava Pinchas, but there was also Pinchas there. Hava Pinchas, okay, but after Elazar there was Pinchas. Hava Zakanim, but there was also Zakanim. Hava Shaul. Okay, but what about Shaul? Hava Shmuel. Well, Shaul lived at the same time as Shmuel. V'onach Nafshed, but Shmuel died. Kulu Shnei Ka'amin. Yeah, we're talking about somebody whose entire life there was no equal. Whereas Shaul had Shmuel in his life. Hava David. What about David? Hava Ira Ye'iri. Ira Ye'iri was around. V'onach Nafshed, but Ira Ye'iri died. Kulu Shnei Ba'inan. Yeah, we're talking about the entire life. Hava Shlomo. What about Shlomo? Hava Shimi ben Gera. But there was Shimi ben Gera. V'Katle. But Shlomo killed Shimi ben Gera. Kulu Shnei Ka'amin. Yeah, we're talking about his entire life. There was no parallel. And at least in part of his life, there was a parallel with, it was equal with, or somebody else, like a Talmud Chacham, with Shimi ben Gera. V'Hava Chizkiah. What about Chizkiah? Hava Shevna. Yeah, but there was Shevna. Ha'iktil, but Shevna was killed. Kulu Shnei Ka'amin. Yeah, we're talking about his entire life. There was no parallel. There was nobody with greatness and Torah in the same place. V'Hava Ezra. What about Ezra? Hava Nehemiah ben Chachaliah. Yeah, but with Ezra there was Nehemiah. Omer v'Achaber de Rave Afani Omer. I also say Mimos Rebbe vad Rav Ashi. From Rebbe until Rav Ashi, Lo Matzinu Torah v'Gdula b'Makom Echad. We don't find Torah and greatness in the same place. V'lo, is that true? V'hava Huna bar Nasan, but there was Huna bar Nasan over there. Shiny Huna bar Nasan to make of Havakayif le Rav Ashi. Huna bar Nasan was kind of subservient to Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi was sort of the undisputed Torah and greatness leader. Wow, super interesting, super interesting. Friends, that was Daf Nun Ches of Masechta Gittin. We wrapped up the Gemaras about Churban Bayis. We then got back into the Sikrikon, we discussed halachos regarding Shimon approving the sale to Ruvain, and does he have to read a star? Does he have to have a chrayas on the star? And then we talked about when we say that Ruvain has to pay Shimon a quarter. Is it a quarter? Is it a third? Rav says a quarter. Shmuel says a third. All right, and then we saw some super interesting things at the end over there, right? That Rav talking about when he was by the Bezdin of Rebbe, and that from Moshe until Rebbe there was nobody with Torah and Gedula in the same place. And then we also said Rav Ashi, super interesting stuff. Chevre, that was Daf 58 of Masechta. I think it was Daf 58 of Masechta Gittin. Hope you enjoy. Peace out.